All right, let's get the video going, Marcos. We are ready to roll.
It's the
All right, let's
Redbird
go.
Reboot Podcast. Are you ready to get rebooted, Cardinals fans? He settles down, at least in the zone, and does not stop running.
Blake Murphy.
This is the identity for the Arizona Cardinals.
The run defense is just horrendous, and it's been horrendous for the Cardinals for a long time.
And Marcos Labrada
He's going to bring over his philosophy. It should make it better.
present the hottest NFL podcast from the country's hottest state.
He should be turning around the logo.
Actually, some breaking news we can cover here. This popped up just about, 6 minutes ago.
It's Redbird Reboot.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans. Welcome in. It is the Redbird Reboot Podcast, ready to reboot you with your Arizona Cardinals. Marcos, we don't have a lot of happiness to talk about. It's been 4 losses in a row for the Cardinals. They fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-17, dropping to 3-9 on the season. And this was a winnable game. Cardinals had the ball again with just over a minute left, one timeout even, and were not able to pull through. The offense definitely struggled. They were able to close the gap a bit with a fourth quarter touchdown. Buccaneers were able to kick a field goal in the fourth quarter, but it really came down to ultimately a couple of costly fourth down errors, a missed field goal, and ultimately the Cardinals now are eliminated from playoff contention in the year 2025. We're here to break it all down, but before we get into that, how are you doing, especially following what seems to just be this numbing loss that doesn't even seem like you feel it anymore? You're just used to losing at this point when it comes to this team, Marcos.
Yeah, we pretty much just expect it. I get to the point where I think about like the bad break or the bad decision that happens, or maybe like just a unfortunate circumstance, and I think to myself, okay, well, you know what? Here we go again, because we usually don't overcome those errors, or we usually have a situation where something doesn't fall our way. Maybe we get teased a little bit, maybe we get a little bit of hope, and we get told, hey, look, you have a good drive, you guys are going down the field and stuff. And I think to myself, something's going to mess it up, something's going to happen, we're going to get to the red zone, we're not going to punch it in, we're just not going to move the ball, and that's it.
It's unfortunate that that's the way that things turned out. The end of the game scenarios, I think, were 2 of the spots that were unfortunately some of the most troubling for a lot of Cardinals fans. There were a couple of decisions that were made earlier with kicking the ball versus going for it on 4th and 3, turned into a missed field goal, which we can talk a little bit about. Chad Ryland, he has not been the same consistent kicker, but he has not been an inconsistent kicker, is probably the best way to be able to put it. It's been a spot where the offense really struggled. They had a lot of times went 3 and out, did not give up a sack, were able to move the ball, but were 2 costly turnovers. One, an interception over the middle from Jacoby Brissett that was a bit behind Michael Wilson. And the second on what seemed to be a promising drive that turned into a fumble from Michael Carter. There is people who are going to cross over. Some are University of Arizona fans, some are Arizona State fans. If you're a fan of Arizona State, the turnovers were something that really felt like deja vu, where you had a chance and opportunity to win the game, but the offense turned it over in some critical downs and distances to the opposing team that really put the Buccaneers and gave them a little bit of life. You end up with a below average game with Baker Mayfield playing. He went 18 of 28 for 1 touchdown. Bucky Irving had his return, had a touchdown. You had a dropped touchdown from Chris Godwin in the game. Good news on the Cardinals front. You got 2 sacks from Josh Sweat. He has now achieved his career high in sacks. Trey McBride, of course, had another set of 5+ catches with a touchdown. You did lose Marvin Harrison Jr. to a heel injury. We'll find out a little bit more this week from Jonathan Gannon. But whenever Jonathan Gannon says you got to find a little bit more out this week, it's usually not good news, Marcos. And that's going to be tough because you've got a pretty upset Rams team that lost 28-24 to the Carolina Panthers coming to town. They right now are up there with the Chicago Bears as the kings of the NFC, and it really puts a lot into perspective of just how bad this team has unfortunately been compared to where we thought they were going to be at the start of the season.
Yeah, we had those aspirations for the third year, and this was going to be the year that we're going to take this team to the playoffs on the rebuild. Everything was, everybody was most of the squad on offense, and obviously some parts were added by the defensive side, that we were just going to be elevated from the year before. The offensive side of the ball, we looked, like how we looked the way we looked when it came to like running the ball, when it came to like having the weapons and whatnot. Like we have the amount of weapons that we need. The running backs, we had no idea that was going to happen going into this year. We thought that was probably the deepest group out of all the groups that we needed to, address. That was the least. That group was the least, and then we saw pretty quick that running backs being the most physical, probably on the offense, most physical group that takes the most hits, just slowly but surely they just started going down. We were down to our last two. Even DeMercado, who I feel like has been playing probably the best out of all these running backs. And now we just have kind of like these small sized running backs that just can't take a full workload, and the type of people that are just going to be brought down.
Yep, or guys who are going to fumble, as we saw. Bam Knight did get a receiving touchdown later in the game, but did have a costly fumble. Let's talk a little bit about the game. So the opening drive, it really kind of was defined by the two safeties missing. So there was a short right pass at 3rd and 4, I believe it was. Actually, I think it was 3rd and 9 because there was a penalty on the previous play. Is what the stats say here. Chris Godwin, it's a missed tackle by Budda Baker, missed tackle by Jalen Thompson. He ends up running down the sideline for 25 yards. They get into Cardinals territory. Josh Sweat forces a fumble. They're not able to recover. They are able to force a punt. That, of course, led to a nice drive that the Cardinals got all the way down into Tampa Bay territory in field goal range. And, of course, you have that middle of the field pass that was intercepted, bounced up into the air. Antoine Winfield, who's not having the best season of his career. He's an all-pro, all-world guy, though. You kind of look at him like that's the Budda Baker of the Buccaneers. You can say that 5 times fast, probably. He intercepts the pass. You end up having a couple of punts back and forth, settle for a field goal. But you take a look at the Cardinals after that first promising drive. They go punt, field goal. They come out of the third quarter, fumble the ball, miss a field goal. All of these opportunities we can talk about, Marcos, 2 of those were 3 and out. One of them, the fumble that they had, at least right after the Zonovan Knight run for a couple of yards, they had that fumble right after that at the start, coming out of the half in kind of a spot where you felt like the Cardinals had a good enough kick return. They were essentially at the Tampa Bay 45-yard line. You just have to get 15 more yards to be able to get I believe it was a field goal attempt to be able to bring it to touchdown, would be able to take the lead, or getting a touchdown at that spot would have tied it. Just the offense continues to be inept. The defense did a good job for the second week in a row, I think, of holding Tampa Bay. However, there was no 4 turnovers this time around. At the end of the day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to get a touchdown, get a couple of field goals, and at the end of the game, Marcos, you had a couple of interesting plays, at least, that they had with the Cardinals. So one of those plays, Arizona's on their own 39-yard line. They call for a run on 4th and 1, and they get stuffed at the line. It was not a pretty play. Ultimately, it's something that I think a lot of Cardinals fans question. Why wouldn't you punt there with time back? And the answer is they needed 2 scores. They were down. They needed to be able to get back into the scene a little bit, and that's something that's unfortunate. But I think it was part of the game script. And we can take a look here at that scene once I get that transitioned right away. This is that 4th down play. You can see that they just have 4 down linemen, the 3 backers there. Outside pitch to Bam Knight. You don't quarterback sneak it. You don't go up the middle. This, Marcos, reminds me a little bit of being tricky and trying to catch the opposing defense offsides. You've got Greg Dortch in the backfield, so you got doubles there. I just think that it's a combination of they don't have any trust in their offensive line up the middle against Vita Vea. They're trying to run away from him. And that's something that I think the Cardinals saw backfire when it came to 4th down because the Buccaneers took over. Defense was able to hold. But unfortunately, the Cardinals were unable to stop them from getting a field goal because of giving it to them in that spot. And that was what kind of ended up leading to the Cardinals, even when they got that touchdown, still losing ultimately by the field goal that they needed to ultimately tie the game. And what did you think of the decision to go for it there on 4th down in your own territory? I think it was a spot where when you take a look at the time frame that was left, it's still the start of the 4th quarter. You are down by 2. You're down only at that point by a single score. I think that I get the desperation. You're 3 and 8. Be aggressive, go for it. I think you got a quarterback sneak it there. You got Jacoby Brissett. If it's Vita Vea on the other end and you can't get a tush push across the line, Don't know what we're doing here. That seemed like it was a outside run, not going something up the middle. I put that onto Drew Petzing for the play call.
Hold on, I was trying to pull the play on my end because so this is what was happening in my end when I was watching this game live. So when I watched the game live, I saw how many people they had in the box. Obviously, they have five lined up, lined up at the line of scrimmage. You have your 4 down linemen, right? Lining up across the offensive line. You have 31, which I believe that's Antoine Woodfield, 3 linebackers.
Yep.
So they were pointing out that we're kind of getting into this formation where I thought they were going to quarterback sneak it too. My issue was that when
I never thought. I think they looked like they were going to quarterback sneak it, but you see the guys were lined up way too far back to quarterback sneak it. They got the guys lined up over on this side. They actually called out, and you can take a look here at the film. They actually called out a little bit of, hey, look, you got McBride standing up there. It's probably going to be a run play to this side is what I think they were calling out. They knew what was coming on 4th down.
When I saw Jacoby Brissett walk up, and that's usually what happens is he walks up to the line of scrimmage. He'll line up in the shotgun. He'll take it from under center, and then he'll sneak it. I told myself this is not going to go over the middle. You have a bad matchup between Vita Vea and of course Froholt on this. So if he was going to really try to sneak it on that big guy, that was going to be one of those hard. That's going to be the kind of like wishful thinking. So I thought to myself, this is going to be a pitch. It's going to probably be a pitch out to the outside.
Yep.
You saw Trey McBride line up. He's supposed to reach block on Nelson. He kind of gets like the leverage, like one at the beginning, but Nelson turns his hips and is able to get the inside and kind of
doesn't win the block.
Trey McBride. Yeah, and then that part was disappointing, but at the same time, that's hard for him to do, is to reach block on a defensive lineman. I mean, Nelson's a good run stuffer. He's good against the run, so that's not the matchup I would have wanted to go to.
It was a spot where Trey McBride took accountability for that and said that he needed to do more on that play, and he regrets not doing more on that play. I agree with you, at least, if he just kind of let him go. He needed to go down and finish the block. I think that's ultimately he'll take accountability. And at the same time, you can say, if your best bet is getting a tight end matched up on a defensive end like that, that's going to be something you expect the defensive end to be able to win, ultimately, in that situation.
Yeah, see, and then looking at it from that end zone angle, that's why you need to be able to see both sides. On that end zone angle, he does have like the leverage battle one. So this is more of a down block than a reach block.
Yep, it's a down block right there. Just finish the block.
Yeah, he just like he gains ground on that sidestep because of the fact that they were able to say, well, they're not gonna quarterback sneak this or hand it over the middle to Via because of Vita Vea. So they're just gonna have to attack the outside, and that was smart play by Nelson.
Yeah, it was a smart play by Nelson, at least. At the end of the game, they also had a unique and interesting setup as well. So this is the incomplete pass to Michael Wilson. And this is one where you're seeing how they're lined up. You're going to have at least, I believe, it's not Andre Bocelli. I believe that you've got Dortch is lined up back over here with Michael Wilson. I want to be able to say that over there, it's not Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh, Weaver. That's right. It was Xavier Weaver because Marvin Harrison Jr. not in the game. They open up the flare pass to Trey McBride. He's going to probably be tackled. This, of course, is going to be like a 4th and 2 sort of play, so it's not going to be a simple running play that you're going to have. You see he snaps the ball, looks it off safety, goes over the middle of the field, inside shoulder. Does not put it onto the outside shoulder. Michael Wilson was getting that lined up, just not a good throw from Jacoby Brissett. And that is the end of the game throw right there.
Well, I feel like what happens is because of the fact that you don't have Marv on that, I believe it's going to be that hitch route to the outside, that there's no threat of being able to stretch that defender. So they're clearly playing zone on this play.
Yep.
What happens is like he's running. You have Trey McBride running straight to the flat. You have Weaver running straight up the field and, doing that hitch route. I think they were trying to get this to Trey McBride, or at least this was a call going to Trey. What happens is he comes off that route because the corner drives onto Trey McBride.
He does drive onto Trey McBride up there. You can see that. And then you can see he comes back over to seeing Michael Wilson over the middle of the field. Ball is either going to be late and needs to be placed right here at this spot, or like he threw the ball right here expecting Wilson to run past the player at least. And Michael Wilson sits down like it's zone, and the ball is thrown like it's going to be continue running. And that's a miscommunication between the offense and quarterback and the receiver right there. You can say, was that an interference play? And the answer is no. Michael Wilson sits down. The ball is going to be thrown directly behind him. He tries to make an adjustment to get to the ball. As he does, the defender goes in for the tackle. To me, that was just a spot where Brissett misread that. He threw the ball as though Michael Wilson was there, either a bad throw or a missed read, and Michael Wilson does the right thing sitting down in the zone. That ball should be up onto his outside shoulder. Instead, you can see very clearly it goes to the inside shoulder.
Well, unfortunately, two things happen on this play. So the first thing that happens here is that they send a fire zone blitz. They send their defensive back and their inside linebacker. So normally you'd have your inside linebackers like hook dropping, and then the wide receiver is going to run over to the middle, settle in between like an over the ball route, or kind of like a shallow just sits there. So when one of the linebackers goes on a blitz, the other one kind of replaces him on that zone. So he replaces him on that zone. He's squawking on that route where Michael Wilson was supposed to where he was supposed to stop basically, and you were going to have that so-called completion or that opening and whatnot.
He stopped right where, and this is maybe part of like right here. This is a Cardinals play call that the Buccaneers probably saw and knew that they had a tendency to do on 3rd and short, 4th down, etc. He stands exactly where Michael Wilson's going to be. This is just essentially going to be one route here, another out here. They got Dortch running up here as another option. They're going to go to Wilson on this play, throw over the middle, just try to hit the quick. I believe that is, I don't think it's exactly a slant route, but I think it's just a quick dig route, like I think is what it's talking about. Yep. And he sits down into the zone. Ball is thrown away from the zone. Like you said, the defense read it perfectly as far as he immediately replaces him. There's not really a good place for him to go with the football here because he's closing in fast on Greg Dortch. It's just one of those places where I think the Buccaneers outcoached, were prepared for this. And like Todd Bowles said after the game, the Cardinals, we knew what they were doing on those play calls. You saw them cover up and be able to run and be able to get a good job of reading the outside zone run that they ran. And also they were able to read this pass play on 4th down, which is unfortunate, but that's how sometimes it goes, Marcos. And we've talked about it plenty with this coaching staff. It feels like every single week you go in, you have your game plan set, and either something goes awry from execution or the defense, the offense on the opposing team just is out coaching or doing a better job at you of getting guys open, of understanding where your open guys are going to be. And it's gotten frustrating for a lot of fans who watch this week in and week out. For me, it's frustrating as someone who watches film to see how close the team gets to getting it. And then in these clutch situations, you don't have a wide open player. You don't have a wide open receiver. You get one-on-one matchups. They're just not able to, I think, be able to beat these defensive coaches. And I think that is something that falls onto the faith that you have in Jacoby, the faith you have on Drew Petzing. And it's something that ultimately either we're going to see it improve in games against easier opponents and that it just needs the talent level to go up, or this is going to continue and this nightmare of a season will progress in the way the Cardinals fans don't want it to.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not sure what Michael Bidwell's film watching skills is, but I can guarantee you that the narrative can be set by the coaches and the coaching staff, and obviously they're the ones who are going to be watching the film. If Michael Bidwell's doing something similar to what he was doing with the previous coaching staff, and I don't want to hear about like Michael Bidwell not being involved. He is very involved. He definitely has his fingerprints all over this coaching staff and all over the decisions. If he's sitting there and they're like, hey, look, what happened in this crucial play? One thing that also was a situation was that Michael Wilson running that shallow route, the blitzing defensive back kind of cuts him off, and that kind of throws off the timing of the route. You hear this all the time from like someone like Kurt Warner when he breaks it down. It's like that timing is thrown off by a little bit, and that can ruin a play completely. In that situation, you could definitely hear Drew Petzing and Jonathan Gannon talking to Michael Bidwell saying, well, this didn't happen.
Right.
We would have been fine. Had that not happened, we would have been fine. You can point out almost every circumstance being like that. Oh, well, we didn't know that the safety was going to make a great play and then, undercut, the throw. This is what we saw on the film, or this is what we saw pre-snap and whatnot. Oh, we didn't know that they were going to send a blitz, a 3-3 fire zone. This play would have been perfect had Marv been in there running the route instead of Weaver, because no one's going to think that Weaver is going to be the guy they're going to go to. So why is the defensive back going to sit on, in coverage on Weaver? I'm just going to drive on to Trey McBride because that's exactly where they're going to try to go. So they can explain that, and we've already heard so many comments about Michael Bidwell guaranteeing because of Benjamin Albright saying that, hey, this coaching staff is going to be guaranteed another year. Who knows if it's going to be the offensive coordinators, but for sure it's going to be Jonathan Gannon out there. And these are the reasons what they're gonna bring up. They're going to bring up injuries. They're going to bring up these close losses as a way of saying, like, look, we would be a 10-3 team right about now, but these things didn't go our way. Hey, we were close. We just, if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't happen. Give us another chance. Give us a true chance. Let's go. We'll get the quarterback of our choice that can execute this offense. We will make an adjustment when it comes to offensive line. Hell, they might even try to get the offensive coordinator for the Dallas offensive coordinator to come back and see if they can give him an upgrade in pay to just have him coach either on offense as an offensive coordinator, or maybe, make a lucrative deal for him to become the offensive line coach, so that maybe they might be able to pry him away. I don't think that's even possible. That would never happen. But these are the things that they're probably talking to Michael Bidwell about and saying, hey, keep us, keep us another year. We're close. We've been building towards this. We have all the players. If the players don't get injured, then guess what? We would be going on to the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's something that we've recognized and seen. We can go over some of the other areas. I think personally, from what I do, is I trust that intel because it feels like this is a team that is fundamentally knows they're in the quarterback market. And I think Michael, like you said, likes this head coach. I think that he likes at least the culture that they're trying to bring. I think what a lot of fans, and what I would say is, you look at the results and it's not where it needs to be. I think suddenly to magically guess that this team gets a rookie or a veteran or whatever sort of quarterback you think could come in that would suddenly turn this team with replacing whatever coaches you have to, that suddenly take this team from being a 3-9 team that is encroaching onto 3-10 with a game against the Rams next week, and suddenly makes them into, say, a 9-win team in a year from now. I think that's far from the case. I think this is one of those kind of soft, what you would call a lame duck season if Jonathan Gannon is going to return as the Cardinals head coach. I think that the Cardinals don't want to fire him because I don't think Michael Bidwell is prepared to bring in a new staff, a new setup, a new thing. I think that he doesn't want to be the guy who's going to be consistently and constantly changing out coaches like a team like the Tennessee Titans. But it is a place where the team right now, Kyler Murray is not going to be activated to be able to join the practice window from IR. We'll see if he gets activated at all this season. My guess is that he would stay on IR for the remainder of the season to kind of complete the process. And that's one of the things that is unfortunate. But right now, at least, like we said, the odds, at least it's going to be there. It's basically being picked out as closer to 10-1. Jonathan Gannon is returning as the Cardinals head coach. I will say that I wouldn't put it quite as high because I think if the team loses out, does not win another game, I think that will get a bit shaky, but we'll find out what happens with all of that. I think that the biggest expectation for the team is going to be that they're going to need to find another quarterback. They're going to continue to add talent. And I think that the standard is, unfortunately, a little bit lower than I think that the people who are fans sitting up here watching this product would like. Really what it comes down to, Marcos, is that there's change that's going to be needed here. And I think a lot of the change is going to start and end with the offensive side of the ball. We'll see what changes they make in the offseason. But right now, the biggest thing is there's a lot of question marks about Drew Petzing after those fourth down calls. And I'm very curious to hear what Cardinals fans honestly think about Jonathan Gannon, because to this point, Marcos, we're pretty sure Drew Petzing is not going to return next year. I think there's a good chance that the Browns fire Kevin Stefanski, that he potentially comes in because he's a guy who knows Jonathan Gannon. We talked a little bit about Wes Phillips on this show, of a guy looking for guys who are in the offensive coordinator role, but not in the play calling role, because there's the head coach in that spot. Zach Robinson was one of the guys who came out as an OC from under Sean McVay because he needed to get that experience to come out. I think there's more of those guys available who could be an offensive coordinator candidate. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of people are having a real difficult time accepting that Jonathan Gannon could come back, because this team at 3-9 has been setting a new precedent for negativity in Cardinal seasons. The first year that we had with Jonathan Gannon, the Cardinals still managed to stumble to 4 wins. We'll see if they're able to get to that 4th win or not, because I'm very intrigued down the stretch. Right now, the year 3 results that we had for the most part, Ken Wisenhunt got 10-6 record. Bruce Arians in his third year, 13-3 record. Cliff Kingsbury had an 11-6 record. Jonathan Gannon in year 3 was eliminated from the playoffs, and it's not even December yet. Cardinals have officially been eliminated. I'm not sure of what to make of all of this. I think the biggest area that does make sense to some degree is I think Michael Bidwill knows he's going nowhere. He's up whatever creek you want to call it without a quarterback, and with them probably, if not completely likely, moving on from Kyler Murray, that's going to be the biggest thing that he's going to get for the team, or have the team get, before he's going to judge the results for this head coach and maybe even this general manager as well.
Yeah, and that, as I mentioned, the argument has been made that Jonathan Gannon would want to have like that restart at quarterback, especially since they took on the organization with Kyler Murray as the franchise guy. Um, so I don't know why it just continues to be the case that we are letting the defense, by the way, because the offense, we've already pointed out the problems. The defense has had their slew of problems as well, especially since they're now in year 3. You have a defensive-minded head coach, and you would think that you would have hired him to be able to do something as like bring this defense to be at least top 15 or even top 10 and whatnot, and that has not been achieved, unfortunately, even with the 3 years left and with all the expenses that we have put to that side of the ball. I mean, we can make the argument that the offense has less of it thrown to their side of the ball, and then you have more side towards the defense, and we're not seeing anything coming from the defense that kind of throws us into hey, we're a top 10 defense or a top 15 defense. Not only that, but the playmakers are lacking on the defensive side. You can't think about anybody that's going to come up with that game-changing play. You can't think about somebody who's going to force that fumble, who's going to get that interception, who's going to undercut. Mostly because of the fact that we are kind of bringing this defense, meshing it with like pieces on the outside that are rookies, and then on the defensive line we're bringing in veterans mostly. We have some draft picks on the defensive line, but we have put a lot of money towards that defensive line being more so veterans and being overpaid in some instances, some areas. Like we brought in Justin Jones, he got injured.
Yep.
Bilal Nichols has not been really effective. We don't even know if he's even playing or not. Most of the time, I don't even check for him in the roster. And even if he was able to play, I just don't really put too much on that.
The free agency class from 2024 is just missing in action. Mac Wilson is on IR as the one player who did turn out well from that. It's been a nightmare of a season. Cardinals right now in one-score games, they're 0-7. 0-7. They have not won a single one-score game. You would hope to think that maybe the dice would fall to the other side, where you keep rolling and eventually have flip to the other side to get some wins in one-score games. But I think ultimately a lot of Cardinals fans have seen that it's been mishaps, either coaching decisions, fumbling the game away at times, thinking of the DeMarcado game at least with all of that. They've also had multiple blown fourth quarter leads of a touchdown or more on the defensive side, where they've not been able to score on offense and have given up points on the defensive side. It's been a brutal way of finding new ways to lose. Overall, that's kind of where we're at with the Buccaneers game. I know there's a couple of more videos I think you wanted to kind of point out. Was there anything else you wanted to work through with the film that we had, Marcos, before we wrap up our time today on a somewhat shorter show? But we've got a recap, at least, that'll be coming, and a little bit of a Twitter-only video. I think it will be a YouTube-only video is how we're going to have it. We're going to be just kind of having comments, a little bit of Q&A. We'll post the video link on our Twitter accounts, but we want to make sure we're kind of interacting with some of you guys who are our viewers, because we appreciate you guys who are with us week in and week out. Let's go over a little bit of what you showcased here with the Cardinals in the defensive side of the ball.
This is a play that... This is the reason why when we talk about the game afterwards, we say that the defense played well. To me, I'm seeing some miscues and some issues. So number one, I haven't gotten the actual numbers on it, but the amount of tackles that we miss on defense it's pretty damn bad.
It's pretty
that
high.
Comes down to like technique and coaching. I think tops in that list was even. We say what we say about Mac Wilson, but Mac Wilson, in my opinion, has been given more love than not. He's probably tops in our team when it comes to missed tackles. Once again, I gotta look that up. I had the those type of stats on my phone. You guys could look it up on PFF. That's exactly where I found it. This play right here is one of the biggest examples as to why, like, some of the things when we look at the defense and whatnot, they got two breaks. They had two drop passes that could have turned the game and made this into like somewhat like a 10 point loss. And we could say the same thing on our side of the ball with the offense that, hey, had we done this, we would have gone this call go our way or whatnot. So you're going to have obviously Chris Godwin. He's running just a little quick slant over the middle, right over here, attacking between both safeties. He goes up to runs his route, breaks over on Buda Baker. Buda Baker, I'm not sure if he's trying to attack side leverage. It looks like he's trying to like jam on this route, but he doesn't jam on it, and he just crosses his face. He's wide open off the break, and he drops the ball. So that's one of the things where people would give the defense credit. Hey, they didn't give up a touchdown. They gave up 3 points instead. That's not something that you have to give credit to the defense. These are the type of things that you have to look at and obviously hold them accountable on these type of plays, because you in this scenario, like, he catches that ball, that's a defensive touchdown, instead of being like, hey, they didn't bend. Well, they did bend. That's the problem. That the offense gave us a break. And we had a few of these happen in this game. I believe there was like a third down.
Yep.
Complete thrown over the middle that was dropped by Ibuka and whatnot. Those type of plays aren't the type of plays that we should just be okay with, like, them allowing. You have to hold them accountable on that. And how many interceptions have we dropped? How many have we dropped?
There's been quite a few ultimately. Yeah. Buda Baker had an attempt at a interception the last week, and he dropped that. That was would have been a game-changing interception because I believe the Buccaneers scored a field goal on that drive.
That's just that comes to, like, these are like the small things that you think about when you talk about your coaching staff. It doesn't matter if it's just the staff itself, the special positions like linebackers coach or defensive backs coach. This is 100% a situation where the head coach is supposed to instill discipline. Why are we not doing any type of drills that are making our defensive players on the defensive line or defensive backs or linebackers learn how to properly tackle guys? Every single time I see a like a running back or somebody just break free, I'm looking at myself thinking, put that circus song in the background. It's going to be like, hey, who's going to get him down? Nobody's going to get him down because nobody's using proper technique. No one's containing. You just contain. That's all you got to do. And that's one way of being able to stop this running back from even finding an easy out. And they just, like, they spear at him like they're playing like they're in the WWE, and they're trying to like spear this guy to the ground and stuff, and he just keeps making these guys miss. And it's, how is this not hilarious to people that, like, the two things that are the most important things on defense, creating turnovers, get your hands on the ball, come down with it, intercept the ball, so that way you can give your offense shorter fields or better fields to be able to work with. Even if they don't score in that game, you did your part on defense. And then when it comes to tackling, it's just
it's just difficult. Yep.
Fundamentals. Why are we tackling super high game by, that was his I wouldn't, I'm not sure what you would call it, like his knockout play, whatever you call it, or your knockout hit or your knockout move, whatever it's called. Why are we pretending like we're trying to, like, take these guys out of the game by hitting them instead of wrapping up and taking them to the ground? That's just fundamentals right there.
No, I totally agree. Fundamentals have been off for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's go over, if you got one more play, at least we can go over here before we wrap it up, at least with everything, because I know we try to do a shorter show earlier in the week and then maybe do a longer show partway through the week as best as we can. I'm very excited, at least ultimately, to get past the Rams game this upcoming week, because as we've seen, Marcos, they are a team that's going to be coming off of a pretty disappointing loss to the Panthers, and it will be out for blood. Let's go ahead here, and we're going to go and share this last little film clip here from you.
This is kind of like the other play that I was talking about. This is more of like a bad thrown ball. That's not the right one that I pulled up, but that's the one I was looking for earlier. Still, though, you can't. This is the type of play that he's wide open right there off the comeback. Baker Mayfield doesn't, throw it where he needs to throw it and whatnot. But we have too many instances where Jalen Thompson's giving up too
Yeah,
much
the zone
ground on
coverage
this
is
break.
way too deep sometimes, it feels like. Yeah.
Is because it's been instilled in these guys that we don't want to give the play over the top, but without giving the play over the top, what are we doing here? We're giving up the intermediate play. We're giving
Yep.
up the plays that are like chunk plays underneath because we're so scared to give up anything over the top. We're not aggressive. Without that aggressiveness, we get less hands on the ball. We get less, opportunities to do PBUs and stuff.
Yep.
And it's I think the stat has come out that when it comes to like PBUs, we've ranked like bottom of the league to getting our
Yeah.
hands on it.
With
But
this zone
guess what?
defense, we're not playing very much man, which means that you're not going to get as many pass breakups, unfortunately. That's just the way that it's going to go.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because we can have a better and more aggressive style of defense if we decide to call more man coverage instead of just living in these quarters coverage and cover three zones where
Yeah, it's not to
most of
say
our
you take
running
all of
back.
that away. You don't take all of that away, but like you said, this is Jonathan Gannon's bread and butter: is rush 4 or 5, drop 6 or 7, keep everything in front of you, and then just try to live or die based off of the zero cover blitzes when you get to it on third down. They just, I think, schematically could do a little bit more. There's a lot of other teams that are doing similar things, but it's just a spot where the pass rush with Josh Sweat doesn't have another additional pass rusher, and Walter Nolan is out. There's more adjustments you'd like to be able to see. There's some good calls. I actually felt like this was one of the better calls games that Nick Rallis had. I know we looked at the examples that were there of some of the same old, same old. There was enough time I counted that he did go into zero looks, bailed out of the zero looks. Other times he did bring the house. Part of why Josh Sweat got 2 sacks and had a fumble. Should have been a fumble for that was recovered by the Cardinals. Ultimately was not. I thought this is one of his better called games of the year. So I look more at the offense, only putting up 17 points and turning the ball over twice as more of the culprits in this game. Then I do the defense that held a what has not been the best, but at least had the potential with Emeka Egbuka and the returning Bucky Irving to put up 30 points. Instead, they get held to 20. They don't force any turnovers, but the Arizona Cardinals ultimately do end up falling still with the last part of the game in hand, which is disappointing because you felt like you got to that final series and you're like, how are they going to screw this up? They just got to go 45 yards to get a chance at get a for sure field goal, go another 40 yards to actually get a field goal. Couldn't even get past that fourth down play. Let's go over this
Another
last
one
play
that
before we
they
wrap up our show here, Marcos. Let's go and talk a little bit about this. What you're seeing with when it comes to this looks like a pretty standard covered 3 look to me.
This is so they insert the running back in the A gap to be an A gap insert and protection mostly because of the fact that you have the the linebackers double mugging on this look. And by the way, like look at how much cover, look at how much space 29 is giving Denzel Burke over to the bottom of the screen. I
Yeah.
get that you have kind of like a little semi bunch formation at the bottom, but this is what the mentality is. Don't let us get beat over the top. Let's give him all this cushion and let's keep him on a bell technique cover 3 look. So they go ahead, drop 27, which is Akeem Davis Gaither into coverage. He's running over to the opposite side of the formation to hook drop to try to protect give help to 21, which is Garrett Williams. Right here is where I'm talking about when it comes to like technique. You pretty much get a win by Cody Simon being able to run back Bucky Irving once he gets to the point where the quarterback's like parallel to him, he does not shed and try to wrap up over here. It's almost as if his momentum carried him so far behind because he wasn't expecting to win so bad or so good that he, instead of shedding and making the sack, which this could have been a great play for him, he's allowing that avenue. As usual, you can see all these wide receivers and these cornerbacks battling up with each other. I believe this is probably a man coverage look. Yeah, it's a man coverage look, and so it's an easy 21 yards because of the fact that they couldn't get any type of contain. Well, in this situation, you kind of point the finger at like, yo, Cody, you had him dead to rights, and instead of shedding on this block, you continuously let your momentum carry you all the way through the block, and you missed out on the sack.
Yep. That's something, at least, whereas rookie playing over Mac Wilson, something that we've seen with the team injuries have been something where, like we say, every team's going to have injuries. It doesn't make it an excuse, but it does lead to part of the problem that we've seen of small little plays where there's little mental errors or mistakes that are made from the players that have led the Cardinals to where they're at now with a 3-9 overall record. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Reboot overall here. Marcos, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we decided to hang it up and log off for the evening?
Well, I just hope they have a really good week of practice and watch this film and really learn from it and get down to the fundamentals again.
Yeah, they need the fundamentals against that Sean McVay Rams rushing attack, especially, and Matthew Stafford has just been dealing at an MVP level. We'll see if we can be back here later this week with another show. For now, at least with Marcos here, let's go and shout out where we can find our content. Marcos, I'll let you be the one to start off with that first.
Well, as usual, you can find the archive on Redbird Reboot. You could also find our current streams over at the TCR. The Cardinal Rule, find me at Pancake Soul. Follow Blake Murphy at Blake Murphy7 on Twitter.
Absolutely. And then you can find that at Twitter/X at Redbird Reboot as well. Make sure you're following the Cardinal Vote. We're wanting to get the subscribers up. And like we said, this Wednesday, we'll be doing a Q&A sort of session where we'll be taking in comments, answering some questions, going over a little bit of the state of the Cardinals. Should be an exciting time for everybody here. For Marcos, this has been the Redbird Reboot. I'm Blake. It's time for us now that we've rebooted the Cardinals. In the midst of rebooting, maybe a little bit more than just their team, maybe a little bit of the franchise needing to get rebooted to get away from these losing ways. All starts with a game up against Goliath. The biggest thing that you can say about the Los Angeles Rams: can't go 0-6 in the division. You've got 2 shots to avoid that, one of them being this upcoming Sunday. Time for us, Marcos, to log off. Have a good one, everyone, and go Cardinals.